So a few days ago, I got the massive privilege to sit down and record an hour-long podcast with someone who was one of the main reasons behind my A star in our GCSE maths. I reached out to him on LinkedIn and suggested we do a podcast for my channel, and he seemed rather happy to do it. So we scheduled a date to record, and a few days later, we hopped on a call and recorded a very interesting conversation for you guys. Especially if you're in GCSEs or A-Level, this will help you a lot. It was quite a big honor to sit down with someone you've watched for 2 to 3 years, helping you in maths, and then you finally get to talk to him one-on-one. I asked him about different topics that will 100% help you a lot, whether you're in GCSEs or in A-Levels, so watch till the end. And if you'd like to check out his projects, I've linked them all in the description below. Leave a like, subscribe, and if you could, please leave a comment down below, leaving your review of this podcast. This is the first podcast, so there is a lot of room for improvement, and that improvement advice would come from you guys, so please leave it in the comment section below. And now, without wasting any more of your time, roll the podcast. Hi Sam, how are you?
Yeah, really good. Yeah, thank you. It's always great to hear about all the students out there all across the world doing fantastically with their IGCSE maths, whether doing 0580 or 0607. So really happy to be here.
So let's just dive right into it. Can you give a brief introduction of how this channel started and how you started making videos?
Yes, so I started teaching the IGCSE course. I was focusing more on the 0607, so the International Maths course. I was teaching a Year 11 class, and one thing that really struggled with is that exam technique, and I'm sure we're going to talk about that in much more detail later. And particularly, they struggled with paper 2 and paper 6. So on the international maths, there's an investigation paper, a modeling paper, which is very different to any paper that they've seen before. So they actually suggested, could I make possibly a video going through those kinds of past papers? And I thought, okay, why not? I'm again completely new to this. I recorded a couple of chess videos as well, just to get sort of a bit of experience and get a bit of a feeling for how it worked. And yeah, I had a little frame of myself in the corner and going through the paper and doing it in my sort of normal way, the normal way that I would teach. And that was a really positive response from my class specifically. And then I found over the next couple of months that actually other people across the world were actually watching that video and giving comments and feedback and enjoyed the video. And it's really just spiraled out of there essentially. I answer every comment on the YouTube channel. And one of the great things about doing that is that you pick up all this feedback of, could you do a prediction video? Could you focus on 0580 maths? Could you look at some Edexcel content? So I've really just been following the trend of the comments and listening to the audience. And it's just gone from strength to strength. And I think we're at about 43,000 subscribers at this point.
Yeah, you are. I checked last time. I think it was 43. But so basically, it just came out of nowhere. It was something for your class, and then it expanded automatically without you knowing. Your intention wasn't to grow a YouTube channel, but it happened randomly, completely randomly.
Yeah, not at all. I mean, it was more just, okay, I've got a Google account, put out some videos on there, and yeah, it's just, I mean, when I got to like 200 subscribers and 500 subscribers, I didn't think it would ever grow to what it is today. And it's just been a case of listening. And for example, these topic-based videos I know are very popular on the channel, like differentiation or working with sketching graphs, things like this. And those have really sort of made the channel really lift off.
How long ago was it? Like, when did you upload your first video?
Yeah, I mean, I think it was around 2019, I think, 2018. It's a long time ago.
It was during COVID,
Oh,
right?
sorry?
If I'm not wrong.
Yeah, just before COVID.
Oh, so from working at home and the teachers not being able to explain properly, so they would have, a lot of students would have searched for YouTube for help, and they would have found you. So that's, I think, one way you grew.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's been the case for a lot of YouTube channels out there. They just had that YouTube explosion because you need to learn these skills. And this has been one of the best ways of doing it, just watching videos. And I've been teaching for a number of years. So, I've really sort of honed those particular explanations of key IGCSE topics. And it's really resonated with many people out there.
Wait, so why did you choose maths? Like, you could have chosen, for example, physics, chemistry, or whatever other subjects are. Why maths in particular?
That probably goes back to my background. So I was brought up in the UK, in England, and I did A-Level, and I was really aware of trying to diversify, so making sure I do a good spread of subjects. So my A-Level subjects were maths, politics, and German, which is probably not the most sort of conventional collection of
Yeah, which is why
subjects.
you've end up in Germany as well, because you studied German
It,
in A levels.
I mean, it made a lot of sense. Yeah, I was teaching in the UK. I still got some German at that point, and I thought, okay, how could I sort of bring all that experience that I have together? So, working in Germany, teaching mathematics, really kind of ticks a lot of those boxes, so to speak. But when I was at university, I did mathematics with German. So, it was an interesting course that St Andrews University offered.
Mathematics in German.
Not mathematics like in German, but you do German
Hmm.
language alongside the mathematics modules. So you're
All right,
essentially
got
a
it.
maths degree. I did some physics as well at the same time, so apply physics. But you're also doing a little bit of German language just to try and keep the language skills going essentially from A level.
So maths was basically a passion for you, right? It was essentially a passion. Like it's a subject you enjoyed.
I know, particularly when I was at school until like 18, I was just doing maths and just, you get a textbook. I actually enjoy just sitting through textbook, really getting understanding, some of the more complex concepts at A level. And it's just gone from there. Maths has always been a part of my life. I think that's the way to describe it. Whether that's been through studying myself or now teaching, it's always been a sort of thread that's connected my life together.
Maths, especially when you're enjoying it, it becomes such an enjoyable thing to do. Like when you actually understand what you're doing, it makes a lot of sense and it's actually really fun to do. Especially past papers, when you know what you're doing, it is very enjoyable.
And particularly when you start seeing the connections between different topics. For
Yeah,
example, if you look at
100%.
IB maths, like we're doing some work on binomial expansion, and then that comes into counting principles and just seeing those connections. And the more maths you do, the more you realize it isn't just, okay, this is algebra, this is statistics, this is geometry. All these things are intertwined together. And it's really like going down the rabbit hole. Like once you've gone down that rabbit hole, you just start seeing all these links and connections. And that's what mathematics should be about.
I definitely agree with you. By the way, just to touch on this, when you were, you're obviously now you're in Germany. So did you like see a difference between the education in the UK and the education in Germany? Is there any major difference, or is it more or less the same?
It's similar. I would say, particularly on the German math side, it's more traditional in the sense that there's a lot of work on functions. So you'll find that a
Okay.
German student has done a lot of work with functions and calculus in particular. So that's definitely a focus of the German sort of math system, whereas a less emphasis on that statistics probability side of things. It's just more of a different emphasis, really, but the same fundamental skills that you have at IGCSE or IB or A level still apply into the German math system as well.
Do they do IGCSE over there, or what do they do? Like A levels, or what is it? Or do they have their completely own their own system?
They have a completely own system. So basically, you go to Gymnasium, Realschule, or Mittelschule, where I'm based in Bavaria. Um, Within the gymnasium system itself, you essentially are studying every single year and do something called Schulaufgaben. So essentially, tests, essentially, all the way through the year. And they have one big exam at the end. So, right at the end of the very last year of school, they do what's called the Abitur, and you can do that either what we call schriftlich or mündlich, so you can do it written or you can do it spoken. And the written exam is kind of famous or infamous, I should say, because it's a 5 hour maths exam that you have to do at the end.
5 hour.
5 hours maths exam,
So a
and it's
student has to
divided
sit
into
there 5 hours just writing an exam, or is it
just writing an exam,
consecutive 5 hours?
consecutive 5 hours. So you make sure you bring water and
Wow.
snacks because you need it to keep yourself going through all the different sections of the exam.
So it's basically study till the last year, and then the last year you have like one of the biggest exams I've ever heard of.
Yes, to summarize it. And you have a mixture of spoken exams and written exams. It depends what options you take, essentially. But there's not this stepping stone of IGCSE, which is quite
Hmm.
useful for students because they really get a good
Yeah,
benchmark at that
because
sort of 15,
there's
16.
no jumps that they're facing, right?
Exactly. I mean, of course, there's always a jump from IGCSE to A level or IB. That's something that's it's you need to get students sort of used to the pace of A level or the pace of IB and actually working at that speed. Because you often find towards the end of the IGCSE course, you're doing lots of revision, lots of going over the concepts you've already learned essentially. Whereas when you jump into IB and A level, yeah, it's suddenly that level's just gone up higher. And One of the ways to get around that issue is to do IGCSE additional maths. So IGCSE Add Maths on Cambridge or
Yeah,
Further
that's
Maths
what
for
I've heard a
Edexcel.
lot of people do is they take additional maths, which is basically the first part of AS maths, right? So
Exactly.
it gives you a big understanding of what you're gonna face in A levels.
Exactly. And gives you a taste as well. Like if you want to go down the maths and physics route, doing Add Maths quite early on really gives you an idea of what kind of maths will be sort of available. So you take the IGCSE Cambridge Add Maths course, you've got the permutations and combination side, so the statistics sides of things, but then you've got some really like in-depth calculus as well with the differentiation and integration. So it gives you a good overview of, do I want to go down this A-level maths and further maths route? Or do I want a more sort of balanced approach?
But this is only for those who are probably gonna take A levels. This is only for those who are probably gonna take maths in A levels. If you're not gonna take maths in A levels, I don't think it's very smart to take it because it will be really challenging for those who do not understand maths.
Exactly, exactly. It's really for someone that wants to go down that sort of maths, physics, chemistry. That's often a good collection of A-level routes to really get a flavour of, okay, how hard is this going to get when we get to A-level maths or even A-level further maths as well?
So besides, you obviously make videos on IGCSE, A levels, and IB specifically. What is IB
Mhm.
exactly? Because I don't think many people here in the UAE take IB. We're just more familiar with IGCSE and A levels. So what is it? What exactly is IB?
So the International Baccalaureate is essentially an equivalent to A levels, but probably the biggest difference between A level and IB is a much sort of holistic course. So, for example, with A levels, you can go from four ASs to three A2 levels, so you can be very, very specific on what you focus. Whereas IB, you have to do a spread of subjects. One of those subjects has to be maths. So everybody that does IB has to do maths. They have to do a science, they have to do a language. So there are certain conditions that they have to do. And they can choose then the subjects at standard level or a higher level as well.
What is the level of difficulty for them?
Yeah, that's always difficult to compare across because take maths, for example, there are four different IB courses. So you have standard level analysis, standard level applications, and then high level analysis and high level applications. The applications course is very interesting because it's much more technology based. So every paper, for example, on applications courses are calculator. So there is no non-calculator component. And that's really important, particularly with graphical calculator. And one of the benefits of doing the international maths course for IGCSE is that you get some experience of using the graphical calculator. So then it seamlessly then transfers then into IB. So if you're thinking of an IB approach, doing international maths makes a lot more sense going into IB. Whereas if you're going to A levels, the 0580 course, the sort of standard IGCSE maths course, plus additional maths is probably the best route going into A levels. So it's a very sort of different kind of system with IB. You also have the extended essay. So you have to write a 4,000 word document essentially, which is like a university style essay, as well as the theory of
Hmm.
knowledge element. So learning to learn. How do we actually learn? How do we absorb knowledge? So the IB is much more sort of spread out. But if you're really focused on, say, the maths, physics, chemistry combination, then A level might be a better option.
So why may a student opt over, like, instead of A levels, they might take IB? Is there any specific reason for that? Like, what additional things does IB offer that A level may not offer for a student?
Um, because you have these extra elements of it, like the extended essay and the TOK, it could be argued it prepares you better for university life.
For
So when you
university?
get to
Okay.
university, it's much more independent in the way that you study. You go to tutorials, you go to seminars, you go to lectures, and it's much more the onus is on you. And one could argue that IB really sort of supports that independent work ethic more so in A level because you don't have that spread. For example, say you do maths, physics, chemistry at A level, which is a very common combination, you're not really doing
Hmm.
many essay subjects. And even when you get to mathematics, for example, when I did my bachelor's, I actually had to do a mathematical essay. I think I based mine on the SIR model. So I looked at swine flu when I did my bachelor's thesis. And by doing the IB, having to do a language, having to do the extended essay, it gives you more preparation for that kind of long, extended kind of essay.
Got it. So it prepares students better for university in a way as well, because of the
Uh,
all the essays they're gonna face in university as well. Yeah.
That's the argument for it as well. Of course, A level does, I think, have an aspect of that as well. I think you can actually write an essay.
There is a additional subject. Yeah, yeah, there is. I forgot what it's called, but we have an additional subject that we're it's called a skill subject that we're always encouraged to take, and one of that is I'm forgetting the name, but like you have to pay a fees. It's Cambridge, official Cambridge, and then you have to write 1,000 or 4,000 word essay, something like that, and then you get graded on it. Like it's an official, you get a grade on it.
So the A level does have that aspect of it. I know
Yeah.
lots of students go down that route because they want to do a very specific set of subjects, but the offer is also there for A level. It's not just IB does this.
So besides IB, you obviously started off from the videos you made were a bit mainly on IGCSE. So why did you choose IGCSE over perhaps a German course that your 11 student from Germany would have to do? So what made you encourage you to make videos about IGCSE?
I've always been a big believer, like particularly with YouTube channels, you should always start with at least start with an area that you know very well. And I know the IGCSE and GCSE, of course, very, very well. And it's all about, okay, what value can I bring to a subscriber to the channel? How can they watch one of my videos and then take something from that, and then use that to improve their grades, improve their understanding
Yeah,
of a particular topic? And I felt IGCSE was the right balance between giving that value.
both of them.
More or less everyone has to do IGCSE. And if you take like the Venn diagram video, I think I break it down in a very, very sort of intuitive way with the idea of, okay, let's get this out as separate parts. Okay, is it
Yeah.
overlapping? Is it a union, for example? And by visualizing that, I think I can give the most value with the IGCSE videos, at least at the start anyway. But what I've been doing in the last year is building up the A level content. So particularly the A level
Yeah, I've
Cambridge
seen it.
content.
You've focused. You're shifting a bit towards A level as well.
Exactly. And I've also got IB content out there as well. I've tended, like in the last few years, probably not recently, to create content alongside my classes. So if I'm teaching IB high level applications, I will make some IB high level application videos. If I'm doing some work on high level analysis, then I do videos that go alongside. So my students themselves are the best source of feedback. I make a video, okay, I'm making this kind of video. Is it
Mm.
a good idea? Does it have value to them? And when I get that feedback, whether it's positive or negative, allows me then to adjust and then look at creating similar content if it's working well, or changing the approach.
Do you teach it in school, or how do you teach in Germany right now?
Yes, so I taught at a British international school for the last 9 years, five of which was head of department. I'm now trying a new challenge, so I'm now working at a bilingual English-German school. So this follows essentially the Abitur, so this follows the German math system.
Hmm. How's that journey been like from the change from the English school to German school? How's the change been?
It's interesting. So it follows a completely different curriculum, like in terms of order, and it's quite strict in the way that it does it. So if you're in Siebte Klasse, so in the seventh grade, for example, you cover this, and this topic. So it's quite fixed from the Bavarian Ministry, which is perfectly fine. It's also in German, so I'm getting to use my German skills, which is always very nice. But it is bilingual, so we teach in English, but the curriculum's in German. But of course, if you have a word like solution set, you might translate them to Ergebnismenge. So it's that real idea of using English and German words interchangeably to really support that bilingual mindset. The majority of
Are
lessons
the
are done
students
in
mainly
German, but
German? Okay. Are the students? I was asking. Are the students mainly in German? Okay, okay.
yeah, they're mainly German speaking, but you might find a student might be German Spanish, German Italian. So they also have some other background as well. So it's really encouraged to actually speak in one, two, even three languages. I only speak two languages, but you might have students that speak three, even four languages at home.
Oh, that's so. It's a very diverse, basically.
Exactly, exactly. And also the school teaches IB alongside it. So they do the Deutsche
Okay, those
Abitur, so
okay.
the German Abitur. So
Hmm.
also teaching IB as well. So it's nice to keep that sort of link to the international system as well.
100%. You also mentioned that you know GCSE. So, is there a difference between GCSEs and IGCSEs? Because IGCSE is obviously the international version of GCSE. So, is the content similar? Is there any differences and similarities in that?
Yes, so GCSE itself, that has gone undergone some changes since I last was in the UK. Generally, the content is pretty overlapping. Sometimes the style of question might be slightly different, but you also get that between exam boards. So if you take IGCSE, Cambridge and Edexcel, those are the two main exam boards, we'll find that the emphasis is sometimes slightly different. Like those IGCSE Edexcel probability questions that they like to put at the end, that's not so common at Cambridge. Cambridge exams may focus slightly differently on more on sketching graphs, for example, or differentiation at the end. So, and then GCSE is then slightly different again. So, GCSE have these kind of histogram questions that are slightly different to, say, the histogram questions on IGCSE Cambridge. So, it's more a slight emphasis. And that's why my videos have been so successful, because it's really focusing on that particular course. What are the nuances? What are the slightly different things you need to be aware of? And the frequency of topics. And by combining that all together, you can make far effective revision than, say, generic maths revision. You know, if you're doing percentages, for example, okay, how far do they go with percentages? Do you need a graphical calculator for that? There's lots of nuances that I think my experience then comes out in the YouTube channel.
So you make videos primarily on Cambridge IGCSE. So why not Edexcel? Because Edexcel is a bit uncommon, I think.
Yes, from my experience at the UAE, Cambridge is quite common at IGCSE, but then A-level Edexcel seems to be more common. I think that's my
Yeah.
understanding in UAE specifically. Again, this varies
Yeah,
from
because
country to
they
country.
tend to believe that Edexcel is a bit more easier in terms of A levels than Cambridge. And I have done Edexcel, and I did find it a bit more easier than, let's say, Cambridge, because in Edexcel the topics are spread over two different components, whereas Cambridge you have to give them all of them together. So for subjects like physics and chemistry, it may be a bit of a nuisance for the students because they have to revise the whole syllabus a night before the exam. But if you're doing Edexcel, it's just half of the syllabus.
Do you know which half of the syllabus you have to do with that paper, or is it just half the
Yeah, we
syllabus,
do know.
read
No, no,
over each part?
we know. We have two textbooks. So, for example, we have Pure One and Pure Two. Half of the syllabus is in Pure One, and half of the syllabus is in Pure Two. So this is for maths, and they will
Yep.
only ask questions from Pure One. But in Pure Two, they might link one question from something you learned in Pure One, which is not really a big of an issue. But the
But you've already
overview
covered pure
consensus
one.
is that, yeah, and we give Pure One always. We give Pure One before, and you do have the option to give Pure One early in January if you know, because a lot of Pure One is basically just IGCSE, just a bit higher level. So it is easier if you did. And our school, my school particularly, says if you go an A star or A in maths, you can give early entry. So you can give Pure One early in January, so to take the load off you from May June.
Exactly, and relieve that, you know, all the exams in May and June and just have one fewer exam.
I was saying I did give it and I got an A, so it becomes very easy for you to. And you know, it's just one paper, so it becomes very easy for you to study, especially because you have the December break in throughout December. You have a break, the winter break, so you can study for your Pure One exam very easily.
Yeah, and then you've got that time to actually just devote to paper one,
Yeah.
and then you've got more time then in study leave afterwards.
What were you saying before? Sorry, I accidentally cut you off.
No, it's okay. It's okay. In terms of Edexcel, I did do one video, the all of IGCSE Edexcel video. So that's generally what I do first. I usually do an all of video, all of A-level maths paper 5, all of A-level maths paper 1. And that's really to gauge interest. So to see if there's actually the interest for that particular style of video. I didn't get too much interest on Edexcel for IGCSE, but that doesn't stop me from looking at, say, A-level Edexcel paper 1, for example, and actually looking at creating some content for that. I'm certainly not against like creating Edexcel content. I think I've got a reputation here as a Cambridge channel, but it
Yeah.
would be nice to diversify at some point and yeah, do some more A-level Cambridge content, of course, perhaps some IB content, but also A-level Edexcel content. There's always so many ideas with a YouTube channel. That's the thing. It's like, okay, what
It's an
idea do I
infinite.
focus on?
It's basically infinite. You can create as many videos about as you want about anything. It is really very interesting.
And Yeah, and sometimes you create a video and you think, I don't think it's going to be too successful, and then it just suddenly blows up out of nowhere, and then you think, this video is going to
It's the
do so
ones that you
well.
think are bad, and they are the ones that sometimes just shoot, and it goes to, and you were like, how did this video and the one I produced last week, which was maybe the one of the best videos I've produced, that didn't get views, but this one I sat recording on my couch, and that
Yeah.
one just gained a lot of views. So it depends completely on the algorithm.
Yeah, it also depends on the like time of the year as well. So you'll find some videos do better at certain times. Some are just evergreen. And I found this with the YouTube algorithm. I'll create a video and it's not quite for the audience that I have. And then the algorithm will take many months to actually work out, does it have an audience somewhere? And then suddenly, once it finds its audience, then suddenly it'll take off. So, my advice to anyone with a YouTube channel is if you just create quality content, eventually success will follow. It's just a case of being patient and letting the algorithm
It's
find that
consistency
audience
basically.
for you.
If
Of
you do
course,
it
yeah.
for a few months and then you're like, oh, I'm not getting views, and then you leave it all of a sudden, which is what I did like a year ago, which I shouldn't have done, but I will improve next time. But like, you just have to be consistent, and one day you will witness success.
Of course, yeah. And you just have to have faith in yourself and realize YouTube is not like TikTok. Okay, create a couple of videos and boom, suddenly it all goes viral. YouTube, particularly the educational sphere, it's a long term idea, and it takes many years to build up that following and that trust, of course, yeah. Because people are coming to your videos, they want to look at your content, they want to trust your content that it actually does help them and gives them something of value. So it's all about being patient and just working with your small community and listening to them. I think that's most importantly.
Yeah. How do you by the way, how do you decide how to make a video about? So like, what topics do you decide, like, okay, so today I'm going to make a video about functions, tomorrow quadratic equation, tomorrow something something. So what is the thought process behind selecting a topic for one video and then continuing it slowly?
So it's always looking at the success of the previous videos or the style of videos. So that's a good example to use. Yeah, if I've done all of IGCSE functions video and that's done well, all of IGCSE sets video, then I'm going, okay, I find another topic to work on essentially. I've done that with the A-level Maths Paper 1 videos. I pretty much covered the syllabus. So that's always going to have an audience out there.
If I'm not wrong, one of your most popular videos was the differentiation one. And I can
Mhm.
tell you, I think all of my class, like a few days before the actual paper for exam, we all binged watch your videos to help us, and they did help a lot. But what happened with me is that the way I discovered your channel was, I think I was not in the country for a while, and my school already completed the differentiation portion. But when I came back, I was so confused because I could not understand anything they were teaching. All of the, dy by dx was so foreign to me that I went on YouTube to learn, and the first video I saw was yours. And from then on, we've continued watching you. So that's how I discovered you, purely based on differentiation.
It's interesting, like one of the like harder topics, and that's probably actually it's good feedback actually. Like it's usually the harder topics because that usually happens. Yeah, like sets and Venn diagrams. If you miss that particular lesson or sets of lessons, it can sometimes be quite difficult to actually get back in and work out how to shade the Venn
Yeah,
diagrams. And you often find through the difficult topics, then it opens up the content then for your other content then to come through. But the algorithm is very good at once you've watched a video with watch time and watched a lot of it, it will recommend a ton of your own videos afterwards. That's interesting feedback though, is more like from a difficult topic and then the other
yeah.
videos get watched afterwards. I never really thought about it like that. But so if I was
Because
to do like
what
a
happens
yeah.
is when students are doing past papers, the questions they usually find hard are from the harder topics. So they will they're more likely to go into YouTube and search for that specific topic. So the harder topics are more likely to gain views because they are hard and students cannot do them by themselves.
I found that for the A-level Maths Paper 1 functions because I was producing lots of these different videos. All of A-level Maths
Mm.
Paper 1, this and this. And I did functions and I was like, okay, this is going to do okay because it's just another topic. And I found lots of students actually looked for that video. It did far better than any of the other A-level Maths Paper 1 videos. And then I realized when actually doing the video, actually making it, there's a lot of nuances and a lot of tricky parts like restricting domains or why does this not have an inverse, all this kind of thing. I was like, yeah, actually, that's quite difficult to explain. I was thinking about this and like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, that could be an issue that A-level Maths Paper 1 students have. Um, I also had that with permutations and combinations on stats. that's also a topic that students find very difficult. I created a standalone video and it did very well.
Is permutation and combination, is it in year 12 or is it in year 11? Permutation
So
combination.
for A-Level Cambridge, it's on the S1 paper, which is kind of
Oh,
unusual.
it's
Like
on the
in
S1.
UK, yeah, it's kind of unusual because it didn't used to be back in the day, but it's a topic
Yeah,
that
it's
students
not
find
for
really
us.
difficult.
For us, it's in S2, which is
Yeah,
the S2 is
which makes a lot of sense, but it's quite tricky. I was also a bit surprised to see it in S1, to be quite honest. I think there are easier topics they could put into S1, but it is what it is. It's on AdMaths as well, so it's a topic that one should try and get to know as well as possible. But yeah, that's an interesting point. That difficult topics leading in through to the YouTube channel. Yeah.
what exactly, like, you've been doing this for about 5 years now. So what have you learned throughout making videos, and specifically about A levels and RGCSE? Is there anything that you did not know before running a YouTube channel that you do know now?
It's amazing how frequency analysis. So I've done lots of videos on my channel of working out which topics come up the most. Is so
Hmm.
effective. It's just
Oh
so
yeah, I
effective.
remember watching that video, and I did your. I think it was it a sample paper that you posted, just
Yes.
like a predicted paper. Yeah,
Yeah. And it's
yeah. So
amazing. Like,
those were very helpful back in the day.
just to give you a sort of a view of, okay, a overview, different questions or slightly changed questions to really give you an idea of, okay, I'm sitting down, I'm doing the paper. These questions are unfamiliar, but I can work them out because I've gone through all these topics and all these videos. And I think it just gives students a lot of confidence going in, thinking, okay, I've got an A or an A star on this predicted paper. I can do it, yeah. And if I come across something
Yeah.
slightly strange, I've dealt with it before. I've got that experience, and you can't like buy that experience, yeah. You have to go through that process. If my predicted papers have done that, then that's fantastic.
Students also tend to, I think, they get scared and they start panicking. But when you're actually doing the exam, it becomes like it's so smooth that it becomes so easy for you. Everything just starts coming into your mind from everything you've watched, everything you've done before, all the past papers you've done. It just as you're doing your paper, it simultaneously comes into your mind and it becomes easier. Whether before the exam you're stressing that, oh, I've forgotten everything, I do not remember differentiation, I don't remember this, but when you're actually doing the paper, it becomes so easy, and then everything starts coming back to you.
And that's where the balance of doing past papers and predicted past papers is, because you don't want to do too many because you have so many subjects to do as well. You can't do like so many, but you need to do enough that you get into that sort of flow state. I think that's the way I describe it. Have that sort of flow of, okay, I know what I'm doing, I know this is going to appear, this is going to appear, okay, this hasn't appeared, but it will come up in the next paper. That's okay. And you need to do enough past papers to get that, but you don't want to get burnt out, and that's something
Is
that
there a
you
number
really
that
have
you
to
would say
avoid.
is a good number for a student to do this many past papers, like a safe, essentially a safe mark?
Certainly, you need to make sure you're doing the most modern papers. So you need to get the most access to the most modern papers because they're going to be the most up to date with any syllabus changes. Because obviously, 2025 next year, we've got a big change coming
Yeah.
up.
Yeah, isn't like I think they're moving the calculator from paper two, right?
Yes. So it's paper two is now non-calculator. Paper four is calculator,
Hmm.
and they're sort of balancing it out as well. So and they've added a few topics like logs are coming in, for example,
Oh
into
really?
0580.
Oh, logs is in IGCSE now.
In 0580 it is. It always was in 0607, but now I think the idea behind what Cambridge are doing, and I agree with it completely. The international maths course, so 0607, was always seen as harder as 0580, whether that was fair or
Hmm.
not. And I think it was more or less just different. What they're trying to do is align both papers. So they're trying to basically make a non-calculator, a calculator element. They're taking some topics off, putting some topics on. So the topics are much more aligned between international maths and maths. And that makes a lot of sense. Logs used to be on 0607, it still is, and it's now coming into 0580. And I'm sure
What is
appreciate you.
0607?
So this is the international maths course. So
So
it
is it
has a
the O
paper two, a
level
paper.
course?
No, it's a different again. So it's
Okay.
a paper that they created relatively recently to help students go from IGCSE to IB. That's essentially it. And it has
Oh,
three
okay, that
papers
makes
rather
sense.
than two. Whereas students are going to an A-level route, so in schools in the UAE, for example, they would do the 0580 maths, which has the two papers
Hmm.
and makes a lot more sense.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. So 0607 is for those who are going to take IB instead of A levels.
Loosely put, exactly. But I think it's quite a good idea because students don't know if they want to do A level or IB in many places in the world. And so to have that flexibility, regardless of which course they do, but then they can do either A level or IB, is a good idea. I think Cambridge have made a good decision there.
What are your future plans for your channel? Like, are you going to be shifting more towards A levels, or are you going to stick to IGCSE? What are the future plans, basically?
There's a lot going on. So actually, this year, a lot behind the scenes has been a lot of experimentation. So now have a
Hmm.
newsletter that I usually do a couple of messages a week if possible, just keeping everyone up to date with any Cambridge or Edexcel or IB changes that are going on. So that's expanded to now about 800 newsletter subscribers. So that's really expanded over the last year. So that's been going on kind of behind the scenes. I've been producing courses as well through Udemy. So I've done 3 courses now on Udemy. I've done like a free vectors crash course. I've done some paid courses as well for IGCSE hardest questions and a paper 2 workshop as well. So got those resources and of course the predictive papers that you've mentioned as well. So
Yeah.
one thing I would certainly like to do is expand the predictive papers, maybe create more copies of the 0580 paper, maybe a 0607 A level. So try and do more predictive papers because I found, and this is through the YouTube channel, that those have been like the most successful videos and the most comments have come from those. It's what students really, really want. So I'm trying to create more resources behind the scene. There's going to be a revamp to the website fairly shortly in the next couple of weeks.
Okay.
Again, where there's going to be a central hub then for all those resources to really help students in IGCSE and A level get those top grades.
That's great. That sounds like a fantastic idea, honestly, because it is going to be all information in just one place, right? Essentially.
Exactly. There's an idea to make an A-star maths mastermind. So a small group of students would work with me to actually work on those A and A-star elements, whether it's IGCSE or A level, and really have that focused work and that really high level. Okay, can we dip into some A-level maths for the IGCSE students, or for the A-level maths students, can we dip into further maths to really hone that understanding so they've got the best possible chance of getting not just A-star grades, but also world toppers as well. I've had a few feedback
Yeah.
on the YouTube channel about students getting 99 out of 100 or trying to get 100 out of 100 and be the world topper in their region. And I'd love if I could work with some students to try and get those absolutely top marks and make no mistakes whatsoever.
That would be a really, really good achievement for you. You know, you can highlight yourself as like I coach or I taught someone who is now a world topper for IGCSE or whatever it is. It would be a big achievement from like, starting just a YouTube channel to now being able to teach a world topper. It would be amazing.
And even a group of world toppers, you get 5 students that are really
Yeah.
working at that level, and they all push each other to get the very highest grade they can. Even if you get 97 out of 100, yeah, they're still achieving,
A healthy
really,
competition,
really
basically.
great growth. Sorry?
A healthy competition, basically. So, like,
Exactly,
challenging each other.
exactly. And just having that kind of atmosphere and working together and looking at the hardest problems then has so many benefits then going into A level and going to university because you're installing that kind of that work ethic, that competition. I mean, you could use the word competition camaraderie, yeah? It's just okay, we're all going to try and get that world topper. Okay, let's see if we can actually do that wherever we're based in the world, whether we're based in UAE, based in Europe, based in Malaysia and Singapore. Yeah, we can work together at that elite level.
Sounds great. Right, now I think I'm going to talk about something that all students want to know, and it is probably the reason they clicked on this video, which is what tips do you have for students who are in IGCSE and A levels to get the best grade possible? So basically, just a few tips that will help students achieve the grade they want.
My first tip, and this goes for pretty much any course, is to try and finish the course as early as possible. So obviously you need to cover all the concepts. I understand that at all, but I think it's really underestimated how much that revision process you give yourself 3 or 4 months. So, for example, if you're doing the May June exams, finishing in January rather than finishing in March can make a huge difference because then it allows your teachers and yourself to really then target the topics that you're maybe struggling with. I mean, your example you gave of differentiation is a great example. Maybe you missed that part, you come in, you finish the course in January, and you realize, yeah, I wasn't there for the differentiation part. Your teacher and yourself, you can really then target that particular area. You can do almost like a crash course, 2, 3 lessons just on differentiation. You can use my videos then to make sure, can I answer exam style questions on that particular topic? And then you tick it off and move on to the next topic. I produced a free IGCSE study guide and maths checklist for exactly this reason. So you can go through those topics, starting from the most common topics all the way through to the least common topics, and then you can grade yourself red, amber, green as you go through that particular revision schedule. But the rule number one
I
is
think I
giving
ended up
yourself.
using it.
You actually used it. You
I
actually
think
used
I
the
ended up
spreadsheet.
using it. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I think
Was it
yes, I did.
helpful
Yeah,
for you?
yeah, I did. Yeah, it was helpful because it allows you to know your weakness and your strengths in which area and where you have to focus more. So every time I recorded a video on how to get an A-star in maths a few days ago, and basically I mentioned in that when you're doing a past paper, you should use a Google sheet, and every time you do a past paper, circle the questions you get wrong and the topic you get wrong. Make sure to add it, like list it down somewhere, so you can focus more on the topic. And as you do the past papers, you understand like, oh, this is a recurring topic that I'm getting wrong. Maybe I should do topical past papers of it rather than doing yearly of it.
Exactly. And it's just going through that sort of logical process that's important and giving yourself the time to do that. And as long as you give yourself the time to do it and realize you've got another 7 or 8 different subjects going on at the same time, you have to be disciplined in the way that you organize yourself. So, yeah, number one is make sure you give yourself enough time for that revision process once the course is finished, making sure you're organized in making sure you're covering those topics of weakness from most common to least common. And number three, I think I would also say is small wins. So what I mean by a small win is, for example, on my website, I'm going to have something called an exam sprint. So what that is a very small paper, 20 to 25 minutes on the fundamental topics that are important. Not necessarily the AA star topics, but really CB, maybe the low A grade topics that are important. Things like changing the subject, for example. That's always going to come up in some shape or form. Working with some
Yeah.
kind of averages, that's going to come up in some shape or form. And by doing those exam sprints, you're only doing 20, 25 minutes. So it's like a mini exam, so to speak. You can then check your
Mm.
answers with my solutions. And then you can see, okay, I've got those fundamentals there. Dividing it into sort of non-calculated skills and calculated skills for the 2025 exams. So doing something along those lines of these little mini sprints, getting yourself into the habit of doing regular exam past paper practice, because I understand like doing a whole paper for a whole predicted paper of 2 hours 30 minutes is quite intimidating. So if you can do those
Yeah,
small
it
wins
is.
first, get that confidence and then build up to
Mm.
those bigger papers, that's a fantastic way of boosting your confidence but also boosting your skills as well.
A lot of students, struggle in maths. Some struggle in physics. I think if you like, you're good in maths, you won't struggle that much in physics because physics is also kind of a numerical subject. But sometimes students are good in chemistry but not good in maths. So, what advice would you give to those who are struggling in maths and cannot get the grades they want? So they're specifically in maths, not in other subjects, but they're struggling really badly in maths. So, what advice would you give to them?
So the key thing is to have a revision checklist by grade. So I know my channel is generally by topic, but actually having it by grade is also very useful. So you start with those
Mm.
C grade topics. And usually by the definition of being a C grade topic, they're an easier concept to understand. So going through the syllabus and going, okay, this is a C grade, this is a C grade. Your teacher can help you with this as well. And then making sure you have those fundamentals. Otherwise, what you're trying to do here is you're building a house on sand, and then as soon as you try and go to B grade and A grade and A star, the foundations then collapse, and then you feel kind of lost in that revision process. So by making sure you've got firm fundamentals, and this also applies, of course, if you go from IGCSE to A level. One of the things I recommend in
Mm.
that transition is, okay, are your algebra skills strong enough? Do you have that basic statistical knowledge you need to do at A level? And making sure you've got those foundations in place, and don't try and run before you can walk. I think that's the key feedback to give.
Are there any specific study techniques that are useful in maths? So, for example, I think past papers is the best way to get an A star if you want to do maths. But other subjects such as chemistry require a lot of memorization. So if you end up memorizing the important stuff, you can still score a good grade. But for maths, I think is specifically just past papers. As many past papers as you can do will land you a good grade. So would you say there are any specific study techniques other than past papers that can help you land a good grade in IGCSE or even A-level maths?
Not really, apart from the way that you approach past papers. So you've either got the topic-based approach or you've got the grade-based approach. So don't feel like you just have to go straight into past papers. It can be broken down into something where you can then build your confidence from a perspective or build your confidence from a topic perspective. So don't feel like you just have to go straight into past papers. Also, with past papers, make sure you, as I said before, I think starting from 2024 and then working your way backwards. If you get a 2016 paper, it may not be relevant, or you find there's some matrices on the IGCSE paper. You go, oh, I haven't covered matrices in class. Okay, what do I do? And then you realize it's not on the course. So you want to avoid those kind of
I
surprises.
think 5 years is a safe number if you want to do past papers. 5 years past paper can land you a very good mark.
Generally speaking, but just obviously check with your teacher if there's been any changes to the course within those 5 years. Again, that's what your teachers are there for. They are the experts in those courses. Again, of course, alongside my videos, of course, as well. But then do check your teachers that you are covering the topics that you need to cover. You don't want to waste any time covering something, for example, on international maths. If you do histograms are not on international maths, but they are on 0580. So just knowing all those nuances will save you time and you won't feel so overwhelmed because you know exactly what topics to cover.
Is there a specific, there's different exam boards, so you have Oxford, you have, Cambridge, Edexcel, OCR. So which one do you think is the best? So obviously Cambridge and Edexcel are the main ones. Is there any difference or is there any specific one that is better than the other for, when you're applying to universities? Do they check Cambridge more? Do they check Edexcel more? Is there can you touch on that a bit?
I mean, I'm always based on Cambridge, but I wouldn't say there is one that is better than the other. I would say that Cambridge and Edexcel are the most complete in that they cover the most range of subjects, that they're the most well known, and generally they have the best reputation. Of course, we've talked about exam leaks, for example. I know that's been a topic that's come up in the last month or so with Cambridge specifically. And that is of course regrettable, but generally speaking, Cambridge exams do seem to be pretty reliable in the way that they actually grade. Edexcel have had problems in the past as well. It's not as if Cambridge have had just all the problems. There was a situation, I think it was GCSE Edexcel a while ago, where there was an impossible probability question. So they didn't give enough information in the question.
I did see it. I did see it somewhere. Yeah, I remember. It was the 3 circles, right?
Yeah, I think so. And you couldn't actually work out the answer there. So it does happen. But generally, if you stick one of the big main exam boards, that's always going to appear useful for universities, rather than say if you do like the WJEC, for example, in GCSE. That may not be so familiar, but generally speaking, as long as it says GCSE and it's accredited, or IGCSE and it's accredited, then it's perfectly fine. So as a student, I wouldn't worry too much about exam boards per se, unless there is some active reason, like you've mentioned. Perhaps the sciences are slightly easier for Edexcel than Cambridge A-Level, but generally speaking, you want to get the biggest amount of skills possible so you're the best prepared for universities. So whether you're getting those skills through Cambridge or Edexcel is not that important.
Yeah, that seems very reasonable. That basically the content in all of the exam boards is the same, but it like the style of question may differ sometimes between exam boards, but more or less the content is overall the same.
Exactly. As long as you get used to that content, that's the key thing about revising, as you said, past papers. Yeah? You're getting used to Cambridge past papers or Edexcel past papers. They both have their nuances. As long as you're focusing on the exam board, that's absolutely fine.
Edexcel past papers are so daunting because they give you 3-4 pages of working. So when you first open it, you get so scared, why is there so much space? But then you get used to it. They just give a lot of space.
I remember doing A-level maths. So I did A-level maths Edexcel a long time ago now. I'm getting older as I go along.
Hmm.
And I remember that as well. I think it was a stats paper, the S1 paper that I did. And it's like, I
Hmm.
don't need to write that much to actually answer the question. Yeah, I just need to do this, and this. And I've got all this extra space. And I don't know why. Yeah?
It was only 3 lines. Like the answer was only 3 lines, but like the space they gave was for like 3 pages. I was like, 3 lines and 3 pages is such a big difference.
And this is the key thing about knowing your exam. Yeah. So knowing that if you've done enough past
Yeah.
papers, you know that happens, and then you don't get panicked in the exam. So yeah, you just have to get used to the sort of the intricacies of the papers. Huh?
Last particular thing I would want to like ask you on this topic is like, what advice would you give to someone who's looking to perhaps, start their own channel based on educational stuff? So like maybe that's maths, chemistry, physics, whatever it is, or like mine in general, talking about productivity and studying. What advice would you give to me or to like anyone else who's starting their own channel?
I think number one, I think that's more important than anything I'm going to say afterwards, is be authentic. So it has to come
Hmm.
from a position of, you've got an interest in it, you have an expertise in it, and you're excited to share it with the world. As long as you fit those three things, then your YouTube channel will be successful to some extent. I've loved maths. I've always loved maths. Maths has always been a part of my life. I teach maths. I've built up huge math experience, the best part of 10, 11 years now of experience, and I want to share it with the world. And you have to find that topic that fits for you as well. One thing to really get started, to try and build a following, is to really get almost a super niche. I think that's the way I call it. So when I first started a long, long time ago, my very, very super niche was IGCSE, international maths,
Hmm.
paper 6 and paper 2. You can't get really more
Paper
niche than that,
six and
really.
paper. Okay.
Yeah, for the
Yeah.
investigation paper. It's so niche, yeah. So it's such a new course, and there's very few students that actually do it there across the world as well. But that's what I started with. I
Hmm.
showed my knowledge, my very specific knowledge on paper 6. How do you approach an investigation paper or modeling paper? And I shared that with the world. And from there, by building that trust with the students who are watching that, they give you then ideas for future videos of, I'll be really good. I had a comment actually the other day on my channel, and they asked about the UCAT tests, so the University College Application
Oh,
tests,
yeah.
those abstract reasoning
For USA,
tests.
right?
Yeah.
It's for US if I'm not wrong.
I think so, as far as I'm aware. I haven't
Hmm.
really looked into it, but it just came up on the YouTube channel yesterday. And that's a really sort of niche idea. Okay, how do I do the Venn diagram questions on a UCAT test? That's what I mean by like really niching down, finding something really specific. There'll be a small
Hmm.
audience for sure, but you can really show your expertise. You can build trust. You can build that community, and it's all about building that community with that sort of super super niche.
That makes a lot of sense because, start niche and then you'll gain an audience. Then you might find someone who might request another topic, and then, you can slowly and gradually expand your audience into many, many different realms. For example, you started off with IB and IGCSE, but now you also do A levels. So, in the future, you may also do UCAT. So it differs, it's slowly expanding your audience.
And self-reflection, and really YouTube is self-reflection at the end of the day. Like, think about A level makes a lot of sense. I've got experience of A level in the past. Why don't I look at doing some A level videos? There's interest for the A level videos, so piecing all those parts together and go, okay, that makes sense. Okay, make one video, see what happens. Yeah, don't be afraid to experiment. I'm still experimenting on the channel. It's a established channel. There's about 450 videos, but I'm still making, you know essentially
Hmm.
sort of random ideas on there sometimes, just to see, is there any interest in that? Will the algorithm find that audience that exists out there for it? So don't be afraid to just experiment, and realize the first few videos won't be particularly good. If you look at my very first
Yeah, you'll
video
get
on the
zero
YouTube,
views for the first few videos. You're
yeah,
gonna be getting zero views, and
for
it's
sure, yeah.
the process of slowly building your audience, and then eventually one day you might just see one of your videos skyrocket, and then from that your journey actually begins. The start is not your journey. Your journey begins when the first video shoots up.
Exactly. And if you're young and ambitious and looking for, yeah, ideas, then just create some videos. Yeah. What's the worst that would happen? You get a friend go, oh, you're making a YouTube channel. Yeah. And it doesn't really matter. Yeah. Just get out there, create content, get feedback, and you build so many skills as well. You've got the editing, the scripting, the subject knowledge behind it, the interacting with the community, answering
Yeah.
comments, answering emails. There's so many sort of transferable skills that you're building that if you're looking to start a career in 3, 4 years' time after university or a different route, then you're getting so much work experience out there just by creating a YouTube channel as well.
100%. My dad recently told me that a friend of his, like their son was applying to university, and they were asking for extracurriculars. Like when you apply to university, besides your grade, you need extracurricular activities as well. One of the activities was actually YouTube, and I was so fascinated about that they now consider YouTube like your own channel as a extracurricular activity that can give you an advantage over other students and possibly get you into your dream university.
For sure. I mean, say you're interested in data analysis, for example, and want to go down that career, and then you show, some skills with data analysis on your YouTube channel, completely free of charge, just showing what you can do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's almost better than a resume, really, because you're actually showing a
100%.
prospective employer what you can do.
Now, moving away from this topic, this is the last question I have, and this is more towards the students who are now finishing their A levels or are going to go into their final year of school, which is year 13 next year. So, I want to ask about German universities, if that's okay.
Yeah, of course.
So, what is the route for like international A level students who want to like perhaps come to Germany or go to the UK, but mainly Germany? Like, if they want to come to, because I heard that German universities are really nice, and they are like majority there are like, how do I say this? Like cheaper than other countries. So, for example, UK would cost you a lot more than going to a German university.
hmm
So, what exactly like is the route for someone like, let's say, in the UAE to go to a German university, if you are aware of that?
Okay, so if you're doing A levels, again, or IB, it doesn't actually matter too much. You need to get an
Hmm.
equivalent score to what the German Abitur is.
Hmm.
And you can find tables online where you can actually see what A level results you need. I think I did a video on this somewhere, but I'll have to find it. Your A level results or your IB score and what equivalent that is to the Deutsche Abitur, so the German Abitur that you get. And that gives you a point
Hmm.
score, and then you can apply to different courses in Germany. Um, you might need to look at language requirements for the course. There are
I
courses that
think
are in
they need an
English.
IELTS exam. Yeah, they need
Yeah,
an IELTS exam as well, if I'm not wrong.
exactly. Obviously, an English course or a German course, so you need to look at the language
Hmm.
requirements for the course and make sure that you're sort of qualified to make sure you can do the course in English or German as well. Um, I mean, I live in Munich. It's a
Hmm.
great city to live, and you've got two nice universities here, with LMU and TUM as well. Um, yeah, so you need to make sure you've got the qualifications necessary for it. It's quite a steep learning curve, so making sure that you're really ready for the German university, particularly with maths and physics and things like this.
Hmm.
Making sure that you're aware of what would be required in the German Abitur system and seeing if there are any topics that you haven't covered, for example. So making sure you're happy with, say, vectors, for example, which is a big part
Hmm.
of the German Abitur course, making sure that you're familiar with what German students would have done to go on to German university, and then making sure that you've covered those areas as well.
What is the scholarship program? Do they have scholarship programs over there for like international students?
As far as I'm aware, yes. I'm not sure of any particular ones off the top of my head, but again, you can
Hmm.
look into those scholarship programs to try and get some funding for that. One thing to be aware of is like in Italy and in Netherlands, for example,
Hmm.
there are also English speaking courses that students from the UAE might also be interested in as well. So I wouldn't
Hmm.
necessarily focus on German per se, but there's plenty of countries in the EU that could be
Yeah.
possibilities as well, and also have the possibility of cheaper tuition fees as well.
Is learning German like something that is essential for studying in Germany, or is it like something they're changing?
There are certainly English courses out there, so
Hmm.
you can live in Germany and live in the sort of English speaking bubble. That that can
Yeah.
happen. I think really to understand the country and to live in the country, you do
Hmm.
need to be able to speak German. Um, I think Germany has a reputation of having a good level of English, which is true. But I think you miss out on the culture and like being here without
Yeah.
speaking a good level of German. getting to a B1, B2 standard on the sort of standard scale of
What about like
languages.
if a student, like a university student, wants to get a job? Is it possible for him to get a job without speaking English? Sorry, without speaking
Oh, without
German. So
speaking
like, if he
German.
wants to work as, for yeah, without speak like if he wants to work at a supermarket or anywhere, as a cashier, wherever it is, can he get a job without speaking a word of German?
That's difficult. I think the kind of job that you just described, I think that'd be quite
Hmm.
difficult not to speak
No,
German.
no, not specifically that, but like anything that a student might be able to do. So, for example, at McDonald's or KFC or anywhere.
Yeah, you need to speak German. I think it's if anything that's got a
Hmm.
reputation of like English is obviously fairly well spoken. You still
Hmm.
need like in the day-to-day running and something like this to speak German. There might be startups, for example. So you want to get involved in a
Yeah.
sort of startup, Munich, for example, is a big sort of technology hub. Then it might be much more of an English kind of culture, like English speaking
Yeah.
culture. But generally speaking, you do need
What if
to
your
learn
German
the
is not
language.
fluent, but you can speak a few sentences of German, so you can understand a bit of it, you can speak a bit of it, but it's not fluent?
Then you find if you're in a German speaking environment anyway, like you're speaking
Hmm.
German day in, day
Hmm.
out, you are going to pick up German
Hmm.
quickly. The thing to avoid is being in that bubble, essentially, of just
Yeah.
speaking English
Okay.
all the time. If you get put into that
Oh, so
bubble,
okay, so
then
it's
you're not going to speak German.
so it's better to avoid like continuously staying around people who just speak English, and it's better to submerge yourself around the culture of Germany. So eventually, you're gonna learn German, anyways.
Because there's a temptation. There's lots of expats that live in
Yeah.
Germany, particularly in
Hmm.
Munich, where I'm based. So it's very
Yeah.
easy to be able to just speak English and have a life that's basically English speaking most of the time. But if you really want to get into the country, speaking a good level of German is helpful. But there's lots of support for that as well. There's lots of language courses that you can
Oh,
do
they are okay.
and
That's good to
intensives
know.
as well. One thing I'd recommend is a summer holiday course, so 6 weeks, doing a German course every day, 5 days a week. That can get you up to
Hmm.
speed quite quickly. Having that commitment
Hmm.
of speaking German, I think that's really, really effective. But yeah, just making a point of speaking German regularly is really important. Ganz wichtig, as we say.
Yeah. What does that mean?
Very important. Ganz wichtig.
Okay, so that is it. Do you have any final touches for students who are studying in IGCSE, or any current piece of advice for A level and IGCSE students? Because one final piece of advice for them would be amazing.
My final piece of advice. Make sure to check out my YouTube channel. No. um, the final piece of advice is making sure you've got enough time to revise all your subjects. I think I move away from just maths here, but if you're doing
Hmm.
IGCSE, you have a lot of subjects and a lot of papers. That's one thing to be aware
Yeah.
of. Each subject can have 3 papers, and IGCSE to get through it and to do it successfully is actually about the organization. Give yourself enough time for each subject to actually revise it thoroughly so that you're ready. And remember, it's a marathon and it's not a sprint. That exam time from
Yeah.
the end of April to the beginning of June, that's a long time.
Hmm.
That's a good 6 weeks of exams. And
Yeah.
it's very natural to be very anxious, very excited about the first exams, which is maths is usually one of the first exams, but you need to keep that
Yeah.
pace
It is one
going
of the
the
first
entire
exams.
6 weeks. And if you burn out in that first week, it makes the next 5 weeks very, very tough. So making sure you're
100%.
organized, making sure that you're covering all the topics and what you need to do. And you're only as good as your weakest topic. Yeah. So if you do have a weak topic, making sure that you focus on that weak topic and make it one of your strengths. Don't leave weak topics thinking it won't appear. Make sure you're prepared.
All right, that's it. Thank you very much for being on here. I will leave, if you guys want to check out his channel, I will leave it down in the description below. And all of the videos and websites he said, you can also find them in the description below. Thank you, Sam. It was a pleasure having you.
It's been a
And yeah,
pleasure
it's been a
being on the
great chat.
podcast. And it's been great being
That's very
here as
nice.
well.
It's
Thank
my
you
first
again.
one, so it has been my first one. So let's see how does.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. Again, I'm happy to come back to the podcast and we can do a
Yeah.
follow up if you like.
Sure, 100%. Thank you everyone for watching, and do leave a like and subscribe to Sam's channel as well. I will see you guys pretty soon, and that's it from me. Goodbye.